not to have too much because I know it gets warm.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like we're ready to start. You ready, Frank? Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Jonna Coons, and I'd like to welcome you to Voices on the Wind tonight. I have a very special guest with me tonight. Her name's Shawn Martins, and Shawn Martins makes her living pretty much by accessing the Akashic Records, and that's something you're going to hear all about tonight. And I'm real excited to have you back. We had her once before, and I don't know if you saw that show, but she was excellent, and this is going to be some new material. So I'm really excited about visiting with you, Shawn. It's good to have you here.
Good to be here.
First, I always do this little feng shui tip of the week. Do you mind?
I hear it's going to be different tonight.
Well, yeah, this one's kind of ad-lib. As many of you viewers that have watched the show know that many times I ad-lib, but tonight is, I wanted to tell you about what I do when I do a feng shui consultation, because for me that's what I love to do. I have a passion for feng shui, and the most exciting time is when I can go out to somebody's home and actually take the compass measurements. I find out all the birth dates of everybody in the home, and then I get a floor plan from the client, and then I go back and do all my figuring that I learned at the American Feng Shui Institute. And what happens is the energy comes in from all different directions into our homes. And there's 216 different ways that this formula will turn out, and it'll be specific to your home or your office, whatever you choose to get done. And the energy kind of resides in these different quadrants. And just the symbology of the energy, we use numbers. So like the 4 is representative of the southeast energy, which is wood. And let's say like the 9 is representative of the south energy, which is fire. So a 4-9 combination would be wood and fire combined, and what that creates. Well, the 9 intensifies everything it's with, that the fire does. So for a 4-9, it would be a very creative energy, because the southeast brings to us our all possibilities in life and our creations, which we're going to be talking about a lot tonight, I know, with the Akashic Records. So really, it's so exciting when you find out what the energy that got captured in the building is. And see, I've talked to contractors, and the walls can go up in a building, and everything still feels open and free. But once they put the roof on, the energy gets captured. And the contractors say, definitely get a feel. You know, the house has like a character when the roof goes on. So what actually is happening is the energy is being captured, and then again, like I said, it creates these different areas in your home that will create different things that go on in your life, the way energy works. So if you ever decide you want a feng shui consultation, I love to do them. There are others in the area that do feng shui consultations. I know there's a gal who took a class from me, Karen McMullen. She works up in the Kalispell area. I think Judy works out of the Bitterroot area. And of course, we all went to different schools and things, so it's interesting. But I have the little feng shui center down on Main Street, and you can stop by anytime. I'll show you I actually put a booklet together if you get a feng shui consultation with all the different charts in it, and then I do like a personal chart of everybody in the home according to their birth dates and stuff too. So it's quite a little booklet that you get, and that actually works for remodeling, painting, anything you want to do with colors. I sit down and I explain. We go over it. It takes about an hour and a half to go over the booklet, and then once you know how to read the booklet, anytime you want to do a remodeling project or anything like that, you can refer to the booklet, because it'll help you decide what elements to put in what areas and what colors and things. So anyway, it's really fun. I enjoy doing it so much, so I hope you'll stop in and visit with me at the Feng Shui Center. But for now, let's get on with our talk tonight with Shawn. I'm so excited to have you here. And where should we start? Let's start with your background, Shawn. Where did you get your background according to having to do with the Akashic?
How far back are we going?
Yeah, well, I know you have quite an interesting history, so if you wouldn't mind sharing with us a little bit about what got you interested in metaphysical concepts and things like that, and then what got you into reading the Akashic Records.
Okay. I was just raised to have open mind about lots of things, and so my parents were always kind of interested in not so traditional things, and so I've been exposed to these kinds of things all my life. And so I did a lot of traveling for a lot of years. I traveled for about 15 years, would spend 6 months in Europe, 3 months in South America, a couple months in Mexico, that kind of traveling.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just always curious. There's so many different beliefs and ways of doing things all over the world, and I just kept trying to not take for granted that the way that I was is the way that everything is. And so that kind of has underlied everything that I've done and explored. At one point I moved to Alaska for 6 years, and I owned a metaphysical bookstore while I lived in Alaska,
Wow.
which was really fun.
Uh-huh.
And coming into the Akashic Records themselves, I was always curious about them, but it's fairly difficult to find out very much information. You can hear the term occasionally, but I could never get any real clear understanding of how to get into them or what they were. And then a woman came to the Wild Ground here in Missoula, and she offered a class. And so I took the workshop, and it turned out at the workshop that I was the only person who showed up, and so it was this perfect experience for me. It was very intense, and as soon as I got back into the records, I felt like I was home. It's something that's very familiar to me, and it comes very easily and effortlessly, and it feels so right.
Yeah, and the way things happen, they happen the way they're supposed to happen.
Yeah.
For you to be the only one in that class, that's pretty neat.
Yeah,
It was meant to be that way.
It was,
Mhm.
yes, and I got to move at the speed that I wanted to move at, rather than having to go along with everyone else.
Well, you're right about, I read books all the time, and I've read many books that just mention the Akashic Records, but there isn't a lot of explanation about them. Could we give our audience kind of a definition of what the Akashic Records are? Would you do that for us?
That would be a good idea. What the Akasha is, it's actually a form of energy. And so the records themselves are an imprint of every thought, creation, idea that ever occurs from the time a soul leaves source until the time a soul returns. And so that includes past, present, and future. And when you go into the records, you access anything that has happened in the past, present, or future of a being, anything that's happened in the time-space continuum experience, essentially.
So everything that's ever happened or ever
And the
thought
Akashic
about.
Records are mentioned in all ancient teachings. They're called the Book of Life in the Bible. But they're mentioned in Hindu, Egyptian,
yeah.
They're as far back. And I have memories of working with the records in Atlantis and Egypt.
Well, feng shui is the Chinese way, but I was going to say what you said earlier about as you traveled around the world, every culture has its own earth knowledge. And that I've always thought was really neat, to be able to study and compare the different earth knowledges with, what I learned in feng shui, of course.
Yeah.
But,
And the different energies because of the different places on earth that people are living.
Yeah, but
It's very
it's
interesting.
so remarkable to me, and it makes so much sense, though, at the same time, that every culture would come up with the same things, the same feelings, and the same, things that have happened as far as the universe goes and everything.
Yeah, astrology's like that too.
Astrology, and so anyway, I think it's just amazing.
Good.
But to have it all recorded, and this might be my own thoughts, but am I right if I say that our DNA has all of the Akashic Records actually kind of encoded in our DNA? I mean, as far as what goes on in our own life?
Yes, we all have access to the records at any time. And that's when we kind of have a feeling or a hunch about something, or we just know something and we don't know how we know it, or even if we say a prayer or we ask for something and we get the answer, or we suddenly know, suddenly things become clear. A lot of times that's access into the records. And we
Okay.
find just that piece that we just couldn't get our mind around in the moment. And so there's access in the DNA for everyone to get into the records at any point.
Because we have the DNA in every cell in our body,
Yes.
and that's actually what kind of distinguishes us from someone else. So it only makes sense that maybe that's kind of like a linear recording of all of that happens.
And if you think about it in terms of holographic creation, everything that we are is in every cell of us, and our DNA is in each of those cells too. And
Yeah.
so everything is there. And so we have access to the records with every cell in our body.
No,
And so think about that. Think of all the different ways we can get into the records.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yes.
I watched this documentary on Discovery the other night about the new things that they're doing with in the medical field with science, and like now that they've discovered our whole body. I know I'm getting off the track a little bit here, but our whole body runs on an electrical system, and they're putting a little electrical impulses to help people that have been in accidents that are paraplegic and stuff. They're actually getting them to be able to move the parts just by sending the little electrical signals and things. I
And
think
that
it's
makes sense
amazing.
because everything is energy,
Yeah.
and electric is a rapid form of energy.
Yeah, it's all tied in together. Well,
Electricity was a hard word.
it was so exciting when I had my own personal session with you. And, you know, many of my friends were getting sessions, and several of the people that worked there at the Feng Shui Center told me how wonderful it is. And I just saved up my pennies, so to speak, and decided it was time for me to get a session from you.
I'd just like to interrupt with that.
Sure.
To let you know that it looks like it has to do with money and getting enough money to come into the records, but it actually just has to do with that was the perfect time for you to come into the records.
Oh, it is. I bet it.
And so everyone, if you've been thinking about
Yeah.
coming into the records or you can't quite get the time or the money together, it's just because it's not time.
and
it's
it will be
perfect.
time when
Yes.
it's perfect.
Yes.
Well, it felt like it was the perfect time for me. And since I had my session with Sean, I just wanted to share with the audience, and we'll talk so much more about what it's like. But she answered questions for me, you know, about things that might occur in the future, and things that I had felt that were going on, like core issues, were confirmed, and that I was close. I knew I was close to actually just coming into wholeness with myself. I think you might say, you know, that we all work and strive, I think, for that. It makes you feel like you are who you are. And so I've been trying to get very close to that, and loving myself, of course, is a big part of it. And you just seemed to make it all happen. It was like once I heard the things that you said, it made me feel right. It's like a light bulb went off in my head, and people have noticed a change in me. People have said, you know, there's a glow about you, there's a change about you, you seem more confident in what you do and everything. So I had to share that because it wasn't too long ago that I had my session with Sean, and she really can make a big difference in your life.
And that's part of why the timing of when you actually get into the records is so important, because you may not have been ready to hear what you heard in the deep way that you heard it a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And you may have thought, oh, that's really nice, but you might not have been ready to take it completely in. And when you come into the records, you're ready for your whole world to change, because it does. That's the feedback I get all the time, is nothing has been the same for me since we did the reading. It's that level of wholeness is a good way of thinking about it. People are really ready to become completely who they are at this time, and the records is a big step in that direction.
And I think you said in our last talk together here, when I had you on the station here, was that it was a time when people, you know, should be doing their soul purpose. I mean, should be finding their soul purpose and serving in that way. So that is really important.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I'd like to share just one thing she had said, which I was real proud of, because she said out of the Akashic Records came that I had been doing feng shui in many different lifetimes.
She's an ancient feng shui master.
An ancient feng shui master. And the exciting part is in the future as we ascend, and the earth is ascending now, as we ascend with the earth, that I'll be doing projects in multidimensional creation projects, and that to me just sounds so exciting.
I wonder if there's more than 216 elements when you get multidimensional.
Well, when you get multidimensional, we'll have to multiply it by infinity.
Yeah,
I guess.
there you go.
Okay. Well, now let's talk about what a session would be like if somebody came in, and you know, what would you do to open the Akashic Records and all of that kind of thing?
Okay.
If
Well,
somebody-
let's back up a little bit from when I get the first phone call or email that
Yeah.
someone says they want a session.
Yeah.
As soon as someone sets the intention that they want a session and we set the date, it's as if a process sets in motion at that point. And I always tell people to start keeping a notebook and pen near once they decide, and sometimes even before they make the appointment with me. As soon as people have told me, as soon as they made the decision to come into the records, all kinds of questions started coming to them immediately.
That's right.
And so
write
it's a
down your
process.
questions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it's a. I just like to think about it in terms of that. It's much more than the actual hour and a half that we spend together. It's a commitment to yourself that you're ready to do something on a different level.
And you record a session, don't
Yes.
you? On tape. That's right.
So you can take it with you. Yeah. So when someone they call and we set the appointment for the session, and then when they come in, it's usually an hour to an hour and a half. I don't ever have to keep time. Sessions always end
When
the
there's-
person, and it's never longer than an hour and a half, and anywhere in that time frame. And the sessions are taped, and you can take the tapes with you. I also tape sessions on the phone. I have a recording device that tapes both sides of the conversation.
Well, you know, I remember when I made my appointment to have the session, I did kind of frantically think about my questions. And Carla, a friend of mine, Carla Fox, and many of you viewers have seen her on the show also, she eased my mind a little bit, because we took a piece of paper and we divided it out in, like, you know, areas of your life. So you could ask questions about finance, relationships, all those kind of things. And that really did help me, because then once I had like an outline of the different areas in my life that I could ask questions about, then the specific questions just kind of came.
Yeah, and also the questions come to you during the reading too. I've had people come in with just 3 or 4 questions, and then it's just like a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
When they get a response to a question, it prompts them to ask other questions.
Right.
I actually did a session last week where we just answered the first question for a whole hour and a half.
Oh, but that was
So,
an important question.
yeah,
that
and it
was
just
very
leads to other questions. So it's not something to get worried about, the forming of questions. And I like to tell people to think about it in terms of those questions you've always asked and never really expected answers for. The records can answer them for you, and they can be as specific as you want.
Yeah, I remember I was just as high as a kite when I walked out of the session, you know, just naturally, and I felt so good from, you know, I still really do.
That's one of my favorite parts of the sessions, is at some point in every session, this light comes on in people's eyes, and it's as if they've come back to life. And it never
like,
fails
you know
to happen.
who you are now.
Yeah, it's just as if they reconnect with a part of themselves, and I see it happen. It's amazing. And no one has ever left without having that come back on. It's amazing.
Okay, so going back to, like, when you have a session with somebody, they would call you up and set up the session, and then as you start the session, I know you did kind of a prayer, or
I use a prayer to open the records, and that's just one of a multitude of ways to get into the records. It's how I was taught.
it's your own specific way then.
I say part of the prayer out loud, then I say part of it to myself, and then I just say the records are open, and you can start asking questions, and the session begins.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I was surprised when, I think one time you shared with me that, you know, people that do, like, there's a crystal ball reader at the Feng Shui Center, you know, and the tarot readers and the different readers. When they do a reading for someone, they're accessing the Akashic records.
Anyone can get into it. And actually a lot of body workers use the Akashic records as well, because the divine blueprint for every human being is recorded in the records. And so when a healer is working on someone, and there's different modalities that they do of healing, but they're always tuning in with what the divine blueprint is for that person and bringing their vibration back to that. So people use it in all kinds of forms.
And that's why when you say healings, you know, I think it is really important to know those really are healings, you know, because when people, I think, can hear things about themselves, you know, that maybe either, like you said, put that light bulb, turn that light bulb on or whatever, it really makes a difference in their lives. It can be a life-changing experience. So.
Yeah, it is. And I did a reading for someone who works as a healer the other day, and what the records told her was that what she does, it was actually quite funny, because they said that the work wasn't really necessary, that she could just sit on a couch and people could come in and sit next to her, and that their vibration would be changed, because that's really all she did. It just made her feel better and the clients feel better if she did some manipulation, or, you know, did something with her hands and looked like she was doing something.
Yeah, and that's right. Usually, well, actually, the healer, or the so-called, you know, person doing the healing, is really not the one doing the healing.
Right.
You yourself are doing the healing, but they're the facilitator.
Right.
Because they bring, you know, the God energy through and help to heal.
And what they bring through, that was the other interesting part, is what they said she did was she just, there's usually a moment in a session with someone when they were returned to their perfect vibration. And then the moment that person had the choice of whether they wanted to stay in that vibration or move back to where they were, or somewhere in between. And so that's exactly what you're saying. It's up to the person being healed, and then the healers in all these different modalities are just bringing through the perfect way to be, and say, remember, you can have this if you want, and then they can choose or not choose. And there's no recrimination one way or the other.
But to know what that feeling is something a lot of people don't even get to experience
Right.
until they experience it, you
Right.
know, and then they know.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the way I felt after my session with you, is that feeling that I wanted to stay there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that's the same thing that happens in the records, is it looks like we're having a conversation and of asking questions and answers, but also you are being returned to your original vibration so that you can remember what it is, and I think that's what brings the light back on in people, is even for that few moments, they remember what that is, and then they take that with them after the session.
Oh boy, that's great.
Yes.
Well, you've been doing some interesting work in group sessions now. I was thinking that's something we should talk about, because you've even opened it up to the public, where before someone needed to have a session with you to hear some of the group sessions. But I think that's real exciting that on March 30th, isn't it?
It is.
Which is just coming up, is going to be your first group session
Next week.
open to the public.
Yeah, it's going to be March 30th at Wild Ground at 4 p.m. It's a Saturday afternoon. From 4 p.m., the session will be about an hour and a half, so it'll probably be from 4 to 6 in the evening. And like you said, I've been doing group readings at my house for people who have, I've been doing monthly group readings since October, and once someone has a session with me, they can come to the group reading that I do there. And I'm going to continue doing that, and then I'm going to be doing monthly group readings at Wild Ground. This first one is March 30th, as we said, which is a Saturday.
I hope this airs before March 30th. We'll just have
It'll be close.
We'll have to crack the whip on old Frank.
But they'll be monthly after that, so people can come. It'll be the first Saturday of every month from 4 to 6 p.m. at Wild Ground.
Okay.
And then I'm also going to be, again, offering them in Hamilton. I have a session scheduled on April 18th at Common Ground, and that's a Thursday at 7 p.m. And I can tell you the topics. The records give me the topics about a month ahead, because they choose the topics for the groups.
Oh, that's great. So
yeah.
they're talking to you. I suppose in the middle of the night or something, they're tapping into your consciousness and saying, it's time to open the...
And I do get them a lot, just as I'm going to sleep. I suddenly say, oh, that's what I get to do. And so the topic that we're going to talk about at Wild Ground on March 30th is going to be collective consciousness and individual reality, which I'm quite excited about. It's going to talk about, I assume that they're going to talk about how we work on a collective level and how that affects us as individual experience and vice versa, and I think it'll be a really useful topic. And then the topic on April 18th in Hamilton at Common Ground is going to be the human experience. And I've started doing group sessions. The first one I did was about the September 11th event. We did that in October. And the question that I get a lot is, how do group readings work? Because if I were to do a reading for you, I open your records. So what are we accessing when we do a group reading? And what I was
explaining. Are they like soul groups, maybe?
No,
it's
just actually
human groups that get together and...
Yeah, it's because I don't open all the records of the people at the group. I open the records of the topic. For example, when we did the reading for September 11th, I opened the records of the United States. So we got the perspective of that. And then I did a reading in January on relationship. And so I opened the records of relationship. There is actually a record, and the way it was explained to me, which is kind of interesting, is every time someone has an experience, that experience is recorded in their records, and then it's put in kind of a depository of group experience. And so just imagine everyone who experiences relationship, what they experience all gets deposited into this group experience of relationship. And so when we do a reading on relationship, we access everyone's experience of relationship.
Wow.
And so that's where the questions are answered from.
Well, can we talk about what came out in that group session on the relationships?
On the relationship, we can talk a little bit about that. I actually just added a page to my website today about relationship, and so I'm kind of excited about it today. But they were talking about how they compared, well, they said two things about relationship. First of all, it's relationship, not plural, not relationships. Relationship is something in and of itself. And in the reading, they said that essentially everything is in relationship. I'm in relationship to you.
We're all interconnected, so we each have a relationship with each other.
Yes, and they compared it to, well, they said that in order to function optimally in relationship, each being has to be vibrating at their true vibration. And they compared it to Christmas tree lights. You know how with a whole string of Christmas tree lights, if one isn't working, the whole strand doesn't work.
Right.
So if one person isn't vibrating, or how did they compare it, or expressing their light in the way they're meant to, the whole relationship dynamic is not optimal. it still might function. You know, there's some Christmas tree lights where some of them will work or every other one will work. So there's different variations on.
Well, that makes so much sense to me. In fact, I just had like a thought go through my head the other day that I wanted to share on the show. And it's funny, I guess I'll do it now because it came up. You know how we're all told all of our lives that until we love ourselves and you know, we're happy with who we are, we can't really have that special relationship because we won't be drawing the person to us, you know, that
Exactly.
matches our way. So being whole, like you said, I thought for everybody, you know, to concentrate on healing themselves as a whole and loving themselves as, you know, perfect being, you know, of wholeness. That is what can heal the world. You know, that if everybody did that, then the world would be healed, right?
Exactly. And think about it in terms of, you said, if you love yourself, you won't draw the person to you. Think about it in terms of vibration. If you're not vibrating at the frequency that they're looking for, they can't find you in the universe. So just, you know, be who you're supposed to be, so those people who are supposed to find you can find you.
Yeah,
and
open up to who you're supposed to be, even if you have to let go of old beliefs that have kept you stuck, you know, because people told you you should be doing this or you can't do that, you know.
Exactly.
Let go of all those old beliefs and just love yourself and be who you are.
And that will not just draw your partner to you, it will draw the money that is yours to you, it will draw the work that you're meant to do, it will draw relationships in terms of friends, and I mean, it's just, relationship is such a multi-layered thing.
It is.
Yeah. And they also said relationship is capitalized because it is, they said it's something in and of itself. It's a mathematic equation or a chemical
It is.
compound.
It's all those because when you know, when you think of it, music is involved. You know, the harmony is involved. The mathematical combination, all of that.
And when you break all that down, it's all different pieces that together make something different.
Right.
And that's what relationship is about. It's very exciting.
Ooh, I can't wait to get on your website. Have we given them your website? Like, I know Frank took a picture of your website address, so we'll make sure that gets on the show.
I think he's going to kind of cut it in here periodically.
Okay.
It's kind of a long website address, but there's some really, I do excerpts from group readings on there. I do a more in-depth explanation of what the records are, kind of an understanding of what they are.
I want to give your phone number too before I forget it. Your card. Let's see, your card's right here. You can reach Sean, and we'll do this again too later, but it's 777-0377. That's a simple number
to
remember.
Lots of sevens.
So you can reach her there, and you can get on her website too to hear some more things.
And one thing I want to talk about, as you keep mentioning healing, and healing has been the focus of what many of us have been doing for so long. And what's happening now, this comes up in group readings and in personal readings all the time, is it's time to move from healing into creation.
Into being.
Into creating. Now that once everyone is healed and brought into balance and back into wholeness, like you're talking about, there's something else that we haven't thought about yet. We've all been so focused on healing, and that's been, you know, a lifetime pursuit for many of us. But now that we're healed, we can start moving into creation, and it's interesting to think about what that is. That's actually the topic that's going to be addressed in the next month reading at my house, is moving into creation.
And now, when you were talking about groups, how groups work together, I've been reading something lately that talked about that in the fifth dimension we'll work as groups creating.
Yes.
So does that make sense that maybe? And
they talk a lot, the records talk a lot about how groups are going to be operating differently, because groups, actually this was in the relationship stuff I did today on the website as well. The way groups operate now is all these individual vibrations or different beings come together to create something. And there's usually a leader is needed. There are some groups that are able to function without a leader, but even they run into problems. So a lot of people have had less than positive experiences working with groups, or groups work for a while, and then things seem to fall apart, or there's limitations that seem to get in the way of how far they can really go. And so apparently how we're going to work in groups is going to be changing in the future.
That makes sense, because right now in our humanistic, ways, it seems like people are always dealing with their egos getting in the way. You know, I mean, we could have a whole subject, a whole night talk on egos, right? But maybe that's what they talk about when ascension happens. The ego is
well, and actually once we ascend into the fifth dimension, we're not going to be expressing ourselves as individually as we are now.
Mhm.
And so we will be able to communicate our thoughts and ideas and our visions to one another without using words. And
More as one.
yeah,
It's like as
so it'll
one.
be more of a, it's not a complete group consciousness experience, as if there's not individual at all, because there still is elements of individuals, but there's a lot more cohesion and a lot less division between individual ideas and beliefs. It's very
Wow.
exciting.
Oh, it is. It is. Something came to me about Frank, you know, our producer. He's always recommending a book called Journey of the Souls. Have you read that one?
Not familiar with
That's something I'll have to loan you maybe sometime, but you made me think of it because I just finished reading it, and it's about, like, this guy has hypnotized people and talked to them about what it's like after they've died, you know, from another lifetime or whatever, and the journey that they go through after they die, you know. And for anyone that's afraid of death, they should read this book, because for one thing, it's very exciting. You know, we've heard these stories of people in near-death experiences where they take off, like, down a tunnel,
Mhm.
it seems like, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Well, this takes it even further than that. That is the experience that most everyone seems to experience, is that taken along. And most of them feel really at peace, and there's no fear. But they end up going into different soul groups of like, you know, the way that I think they have to go into kind of different levels.
Yeah.
You know, as you travel through each lifetime or work through each lifetime, you're working out different things. And they even have teachers that come in, and you don't really see human forms, but you see glowing balls of light, and they're different colors. And the more advanced ones are the purples and the real bright purples, but there's blues that are teachers, and the whites and yellows are kind of the new souls kind of coming.
Nice.
Yeah, and you definitely recognize people that you've shared lifetimes before with, and they say that these soul groups are usually where you continue with the same kind of people going through many different lifetimes, because you're a soul group that
Yes.
studies and works together.
Yes.
And it sounds like, and the expansiveness is just, you know, it's
We're so much bigger than we recognize ourselves
Yeah.
at this moment.
yeah.
But we're getting bigger.
You know, it's hard to imagine what people talk about and what they say about being in
Yeah.
different dimensions and things. Can you explain that to our audience at all, about what that might feel like?
About being in different dimensions?
Yeah, and being maybe, like they say, Earth's moving and ascending to the 5th dimension.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit to us?
We did a group reading on, it's called the 3rd dimensional human body and the 5th dimensional etheric body.
Oh.
And so that session was kind of comparing what our experience is now to what it will be like in 5th dimension. And I haven't got the transcript back from that session yet, so I usually forget a lot in sessions right away. But what I do remember is that they talked about it as being less, it's just gone out of my head. 5th dimension is less, it doesn't have anything to do with time. And so in 3rd dimension we have an idea, how does it work? We have an idea, we set it in motion, and then something happens.
And then something happens.
And in 5th dimension, it will all happen at once. There's not going to be the time lag, because we're not going to be in time-space. That's one thing that's different.
And well, in 3rd dimension, we're physical. We have our I mean, it's not really physical, but it appears to be physical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it will be, you will still be able to see different forms in 5th dimension. So it won't be, because when you get up into higher dimensions, there are less differentiation between beings.
Yeah, and there's just like in that Soul Journey book, it
Yeah.
talked about shapes and forms.
I
more or
think
less.
there's shapes, geometrical shapes come up a lot in 5th dimension, color,
Yeah, color.
sound,
And
music or
telepathy.
toning, telepathy. The thing is that we're in the process of moving from 3rd to 5th dimension, so we're starting to get into some of these things.
Reading people's
Yes.
minds and things. I feel that, don't you?
Yeah.
And people coming to the Feng Shui Center and say, boy, what's going on? Everything's going so fast, you know.
Yeah.
And we'll have to talk about that, because you have this one session that you did that talks about what that's going to be like,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
So we can get into that a little bit.
But it's true. If you notice the things, if you think about, maybe 10, 20 years ago, the things that were in science fiction movies and in science fiction books, those are the kinds of things we're doing now, and we're getting closer to things like telepathy and teleportation, and that.
Is it clairvoyance and clairaudience, I
yes,
think, and all those different things will occur probably in
yeah.
the fifth dimension.
Well, that's actually going to occur in third dimension.
Oh.
We're going to be able to start doing that soon.
Wow.
I don't have any specific timeline here, but in the next, definitely within the next 10 years. And so my understanding is there's going to be a major quantum change in consciousness. And perhaps this will get addressed at Wild Ground, I don't know. I hope so, I would love to know.
Yeah.
That will allow humans on a, human expression on a mass level to do these kinds of things. And so it's just going to change how we interact and what we're able to do. And we're going to be able to create things that we couldn't even imagine before.
Yeah, that's what during our session came out, and I'm so excited about that,
Yeah.
when we talk about creations.
And that's the thing that comes up in a lot of personal sessions is I don't know if it's just the people I'm talking to, but I talk to a lot of people and people all over the country with telephone sessions and everything. And the people I talk to are going to do the most amazing things. And I was just thinking about this last night, that if I take into account all the readings that I've done and what all these people are going to be doing, I kind of have an idea of what the future is going to be like. But even having done these readings, it still is hard for me to imagine, and because it has to change so much.
Yeah, and that's what you said in your paper, that as we move, there was a difference between Earth evolving
Yes.
into the fifth dimension and human beings
Mhm.
evolving into the fifth dimension.
And actually, we should probably explain what ascension is, or what we mean by
let's
ascension.
do,
in this
yeah, let's start
conversation.
from the beginning. Maybe we can talk about this.
That
Okay.
ascension is moving out of third dimension into a higher dimension. And there are different, ascension is something that's always been done. There are many recordings of people ascending in
And would you
history.
say it's a matter of lifting your vibration to a new
Yes.
vibration
Mhm,
level?
mhm. It's vibrating quickly, yes.
Like when people are able to get rid of disease and
Yes.
things, they're vibrating at a higher level.
Exactly, incorporating more light and increasing the vibration. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
And ascension is just becoming at a particular vibration and incorporating a certain amount of light that you aren't able to be completely in third dimension anymore. And it's important to understand, like you said, that Earth ascending is different than humanity ascending. There's a lot of people who think that whether Earth is going to ascend or not has to do with what humanity decides, and it doesn't. Earth has already committed to ascending, and she's on her way, and each being in humanity can decide whether they want to ascend or not, and they can ascend individually or in groups. Many beings will ascend in groups.
And this is probably a scary question for many people, but if you don't decide to ascend, what are your options?
Oh, there's lots of options.
Oh, there are? Oh,
That
tell
doesn't
me
need to
about
be
'em.
scary at all. That was something that actually we talked about in a group session. And there's a whole continuum of options. I'll just kind of hit some of the high points here.
Okay.
There's, for people who are not ready to ascend, who want to continue experiencing third dimension limitation. And third dimension, I would like to point out, is people think that fifth dimension must be better than third dimension.
Right.
And that's not true. Third dimension, if you think about it like different rides at a carnival,
Yeah.
some of them make you go in circles, some of them make you go up and down, and you have different experiences on different rides. Third dimension is a different ride than fifth dimension.
Oh,
And
right.
what you get to experience in third dimension is limitation, time, space, density, those kinds of things. And so there are some beings who aren't ready to ascend because they haven't been doing third dimension as some of these other beings who are ready to ascend. And so there's no, it doesn't mean that anything is better or worse, one is better or worse than the other.
Nothing's wrong. It's just whatever's going to be.
Right. And so the people who would like to continue experiencing third dimension obviously have to find another planet, because Earth isn't going to be expressing third dimension anymore. And what the record said will happen is that when Earth ascends, the beings who want to continue to experience third dimensional reality will move to another third dimensional experience.
Wow.
And what it will be like for those beings is that it will be like waking up from a dream. And as soon as they are moved to the other third dimensional experience, there will be a short time of remembering Earth, and then they'll just forget the time on Earth, and it will be as if they always are where they are.
Wow.
And that's part of being in third dimension. It's operating under the illusion of time, space, and
Right.
creating a reality.
They say it's all an illusion.
Right.
It's hard to
So-
imagine that.
So it won't even be scary for those people.
No.
It will just be a shift, and then they won't feel like they've lost anything or anything has changed too greatly, because it won't. That's the whole point of it.
So in a way, what you're saying kind of makes me think about, we have all these different ideas about how humans began on Earth and everything.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like we could have woken up here.
Yeah, think about that.
Yes. When you talked about it,
Yeah.
it sounded, you know, very realistic.
And what the record said in this last reading, I did a reading a couple days ago on Friday on the time-space continuum, and we were talking about this, and we were talking because that is a very real possibility. If that happens, how do we know that hasn't happened to us? And so we were asking in the reading, how do we begin to think about this, or how do we remember if we have switched realities? Because the other thing that happens is we switch realities all the time, because there are multiple and parallel realities that look very much like what you're doing in this reality, only just a few things might be different. And so what the records recommended is look at all the television shows, kind of Star Trek kind of things, movies like the movie Frequency or Terminator 2 with Arnold Schwarzenegger years ago, where they play with time, where people change something in the past or the future and it changes.
Matrix, maybe.
Yeah, Matrix, exactly.
That's
yeah.
a good one.
Well, the Matrix, look at the illusion that they thought something was real and it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Those kind of things are being given to us to remember who we are and to trigger that this reality we're buying into is really just a ride at the carnival and it's coming to an end. And it's not, it doesn't need to be a scary thing or to sound like we're losing out on something, because what we're moving into is even more exciting, or it's different. This has been pretty exciting.
And I like what you said, because it makes, I was reading some of your papers and I liked what you said about how it's feeling right now, that things are speeding up and everything's moving faster, and it should be compared like to being in a dryer.
Oh, did they?
You know, where you get bounced
Yes.
around, and you know, you're doing very many different tasks at one time, and you're able to keep all of that going because you don't have the resistance. Like you can explain this, I'm sure, better to the audience than I can, but it seemed like to have an open mind and to go with the flow was the important thing to do, not to go, whoa, whoa, you know, this is moving too fast for me, stop, I can't take it, you know, the resistance is what's going to get you in trouble and get you sick, I think, in the papers.
The resistance is what causes pain, is what they say in the records.
Pain and could elapse you into a sickness or something.
If you resist long enough, it can move into disease or something, because you've stopped living, you've stopped being alive. If you've stopped being alive, that means you're moving towards dying. Your body is dying.
Right.
And again, that doesn't need to be scary,
No.
but a way to think about it. Yeah. And the dryer example, I'm trying to remember what came just before that, because it seems like someone asked how...
That it wasn't linear. It wasn't like time was moving faster,
Oh, that's
faster
what they were
way.
talking about. It wasn't like a river. A lot of us envision time going faster
like going
and faster.
with the flow, not like a river, but more like
but it's because it's not that linear and it bounces you around. And so they were talking about how in a dryer can be really warm and comforting.
Yeah, cozy.
Yes. And you're just moving a bunch of different directions.
Yeah, haven't we all stood by the dryer just to warm up
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, and feel cozy? That's right. So that's it. I think if you go, you know, I've always had an open mind, and it's kind of like you said, you were brought up in a family that that warranted that, you know, and brought that to you. I actually, was born into kind of a family that was more straight-laced, you know, middle class straight-laced family, and I always felt a little off, you know. I was the one that was interested in things like you're talking about and always looking at different things, but I felt a little off from everybody else in the family.
Yeah.
So people out there in the audience, you probably feel like you're either one or the other.
Yeah. And I think it's useful to be brought up in a more traditional way of being raised, because then you have a real kind of solid place to go into these strange ideas from.
Yeah.
Because if everything is uncertain and you're questioning everything, that's very unsettling. And so it's nice to be able to have something that's solid that you can count on.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
I agree with that, because
I'm
totally happy with the family that I grew up with. You know, my mom and dad were very special and provided us with security and all of this. And I was thinking, you're exactly right, because I have that foundation to kind of build on.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, but it is what I was saying. I guess the point that I was making is it's good to keep your mind open.
Yeah.
I think kind of what you said, you'll start dying if you close your mind to everything.
Yeah, and you do, and that's what the body reflects, is that, oh, we're not so interested, because we're presented with new options in every moment. There's all kinds of information coming into us, but at times we get tired because it's just so much and we need a break. And so when we get tired, we move into habitual ways of dealing with information. And that's kind of what's happening now. The planet there's all kinds of new energy coming into the planet that's speeding everything up.
And
And
you
a lot
said
of
it
us
comes
are
in-
already tired.
And you said it comes in waves, kind of.
Yes. Mhm.
So it's not like it hits you gradually. It's more
Yeah.
like these jumps of waves, kind
Yeah,
of.
and you can recognize when a wave is happening. If you
Uh-huh.
just talk, a lot of people are experiencing the same thing. Some of it can feel like they're just tired all the time. People can't get enough sleep, even if they sleep 10 or 11 hours every night.
Mhm.
Or they're the opposite. They can't sleep at all. They're just
Wound up.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
like they're just infused with energy.
I was
And-
just going to ask you, I was going to ask you something because, like the last couple nights, it seems like I'm not usually
Yeah.
a person that experiences dead tiredness, but I just got home from work and everything. It was like, I was
Yeah.
like a log. I needed to sleep.
Yeah, I think it's real intense right now with the equinox.
Oh,
The equinox energy is moving in,
uh-huh.
and it's pretty powerful.
That's right. We just experienced it.
Yeah.
I think yesterday at noon, right around noon.
Is that I wondered
Yep.
what time it was. It
Yeah,
was
some
a
people
very
even
strange
felt
day
it when it
yesterday.
came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that blizzard and everything that was going on,
Mhm.
But the spring equinox happened at around 12:15, I think it was yesterday. And I already saw today quite a change in the shop.
Yes.
People were bustling into the shop and buying things, and it was just so different from the way it has
Mhm.
been. It's like spring has sprung. That's
Yes.
what the spring equinox is, I guess.
Yeah.
It like opens up, Aries.
Opens up new possibilities.
Yeah, and Aries is the beginning,
Mhm.
Of the cycle.
Yeah,
I think
of the
Pisces
whole-
is the end
mhm.
of the cycle, and Aries is the beginning of the cycle. So Aries started yesterday.
Yeah, and we're moving into the time of Aries, on the larger scale, and so there's probably some connection there with moving into Aries.
Oh, I bet it
and
is. Which
I
is
think
also the
everything just kind
fire.
of lined up. Yeah.
Fire sign, so
Yeah.
it's like action.
Yeah, lots of momentum.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's great.
It is. Yeah, it's an interesting time, and I think it's so exciting. I don't know if you mentioned it or not about the crystal skull coming to the Feng Shui Center tomorrow.
Oh yes, and I hope this. I guess
Oh,
this
it'll be
won't
too
air.
late, won't
This
it?
won't air before the crystal skull gets here. But you can all come in if you didn't get to see the crystal skull, because I'm actually gonna. I've already booked him for next year about the same time. She
Oh.
said the only opening, which was really ironic to her, was the March 21st of next year.
See, and that's so interesting to me because it's such a powerful time. I
It
can't believe
is.
it's not one of the first times booked.
I know. Well, I guess it was saved for
It's
us.
supposed to. Yeah, I was thinking about that because
And
it's so powerful.
And so just quickly, I'll say that the crystal skull is called Max, and he's one of 13 authentic skulls that have been found that they believe are right around 10,000 years old. They don't even know how Max was made because they don't have the exact means to make him today. And this lady, Joanne Parks, had been told that a Tibetan monk was going to find her. I think that's the way the story goes anyway. So for 8 years, she knew she was going to be coming in contact with this skull, and then it finally happened. And now she's the one that takes him around. He's the only one traveling around the world. The rest are in museums and in private collections and
Yes.
things. And they say that when he gets here, his energy will be felt within a 2-block radius. So I'm very excited about
Is
it.
he
And
here? Is he in town yet?
tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
But are they here tonight?
No.
Oh, they're
No.
Oh, tomorrow
She'll
at
be
3.
flying in
Oh,
tomorrow
just-
at
oh.
3 o'clock. And
Yeah.
so you'll be having a session with Max, and
Yeah, I
so
have a
we'll be
session
able to
at
talk
4.
about that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that because I heard that the energy, when you think about it, we were talking about vibrations earlier. Now crystals, everybody knows that crystals can enhance someone's vibration. Like if you hold a crystal, next to your heart or whatever, your vibration raises. So we can imagine with Max's, and crystals hold information.
Yes, they're encoded with information.
Encoded with information. So it's just like our computer, we use crystal chips in our computers
Exactly.
to record that information. Well, so this crystal skull,
And he's 13 pounds, right?
yes,
Or
and being
something.
10,000 years old, the recorded information in him could be incredible.
Yeah.
And that's what I think people come to experience.
Yeah. Well, and I emailed a friend of mine who's in Guatemala. She's been down in that area, and a lot of the skulls are found in that area in
Yeah,
Central and
around
South
the
America.
Mayan area. They
So I just emailed her and said, what have you heard about crystal skulls? And she says what she's heard is that they reenact your DNA. They completely activate your DNA by being in their presence.
Oh, that
Yeah.
that fits with what I've heard because people are coming to see Max that have seen him before, and they said that when they were in the presence of his energy, what they felt was that it lifted them to, how we talk about being on our spiritual path and you work, it's not just being there, it's work. And so you do the work and you raise in vibration. And they said it was almost like an instant lift,
Yeah.
like to a
That
different
makes
level.
sense, doesn't it?
To a different level, yeah.
I'm very excited.
So if it kind of encodes the DNA in us, it might bring that wholeness to effect a little bit more, that feeling.
And I think that that probably ties into this quantum change in human consciousness that the records keep referring to, because something has to change. So, and I'm sure everyone isn't going to be in the presence of Max or Crystal Skull,
Right.
but there are lots of technologies that are going to be emerging and coming back to us from the future, or from the past, however you want to think about it, to remind us who we are.
Yeah.
That's what I have on my business cards. When I first put business cards together, after I started reading the records, they said, remember who you are on there.
That's
And at the
great.
time, I just did it because they said to, and so I forget it. But the more I've worked with the records, that's what all this is about. That's what everyone is trying to get back to, who they are at the core of their being.
To remember.
And there's Crystal Skulls, there's the Akashic Records, there's lots of ways to do this. But I find that really encouraging, that there are so many accessible avenues to get back to ourselves.
Yeah,
Must be important at this time.
And we all have that core of spark, that pure God-like essence, as one. And so it makes sense to me that all of us have gone through our, whether it's past life stuff that has stuck in us, or our childhood has brought up some things too, probably. But we have these issues that almost kind of like wrap around your core.
Yeah.
That's what I was told a long time ago. I remember Val Ann that owned Earth Spirit Books. She shared with me how when I went through a real fearful experience with my first husband, he was a wife beater, and I really took on a lot of fear. And it was kind of like wrapped around my core. And she said, so Jonna, what you'll be doing is peeling off those layers and getting, back down to the core.
As you're describing that, I'm seeing the layers around a cocoon.
It
wrapped around a cocoon and then turn into a butterfly.
Yeah, well, that's a good way of describing it, because it feels like after much work, counseling and everything, I was able to peel away those layers, and I even give talks and stuff to the girls at the battered women's shelter and stuff, because I feel like having gone through that experience and being where I'm at now, it really has been wonderful change.
I'm sure it's very inspiring.
Well, I want to give them that hope, because that's what it's all about. I think it's just working, working at peeling away the layers.
Yeah, and I would actually like to add another possibility for that is how we have been dealing with things, and there's an option to just move through grace with things, and we don't have to work and peel away the layers anymore.
That's right. Well, our angels can help bring the grace through too. I mean, if you call to, like when you pray to God, or you pray to your angels or whoever it is you pray to, the grace is so important.
And grace is instant. That's the thing, is we don't have to work anymore. We don't have to do the counseling. We don't have to do learn all the different ways to be more spiritual. We can be that in an instant. And that actually brings me to something I want to kind of talk about, that the records talk a lot about karma. I don't know if we talked about this in your session.
A little bit, but I'd like to hear more about what you said, because karma has actually kind of changed.
Yeah, karma, according to the records, karma, the Earth herself stopped holding karma in 1987 at the harmonic convergence.
And everybody pretty much knows what karma is, don't you think? It's like, I always thought of karma as what you do will come back to you.
Sow.
Yeah. So if you're good, the goodness will come back to you.
And karma is very useful in third dimension for that reason, because karma allowed us to be able to do something in one lifetime and then to get the consequences of that in another lifetime. How clever is that? It was set, or we could do it through multiple lifetimes. It is a very useful concept. It's a very third dimensional concept. Like we said before, that's one of the, when you get on the third dimension ride at the carnival, you get to experience karma. That's one of the things. Okay. And so Earth was holding karma since she moved into the time-space continuum, and in harmonic convergence, she stopped holding karma. And at that time,
can I ask, when you say holding karma, do you mean holding everybody else's karma for them?
She held karma for everyone, yes.
Wow, okay.
And so that people could just, the way that they're talking about it in the records is like the video games that you can play on your computer, where you can play to a certain point, and then you can turn off your computer and save where you're at, and then pick up where you left up. When you come back, turn on the computer. That's how Earth was holding karma. So she stopped doing that at the harmonic convergence in 1987, which meant that at that moment, at that time, everyone had the option to stop operating within karmic cycles. Karma was completely cleared. Many beings chose to continue to operate in karma and they just had the choice of holding karma in their own energy field.
Well, because we weren't told we didn't have to anymore. If somebody made a big sign, you know, and
Somebody
told us-
should have, yeah. And but people began to experience being outside of karma to varying degrees.
Wow.
And so what this means is karma isn't relevant or needed anymore. And that's where grace comes in, because we're not working out karmic debts or playing out karmic, or we have the option to not work out karmic debts or karmic cycles. People, you still have the option to. So if you're still operating as if that's your reality, that's the reality you're going to play out. But if you say, okay, I'm done with karma, what's next? Karma's done. And they gave a great meditation in one of the group readings about karma. And they said that it'd be useful for each person to sit down and have a conversation with karma. Because they said, first of all, karma's really tired. It's been working really hard. And it actually has a retirement house in Florida that it would like to go to. But it's not going to go until you don't need it anymore. Because the agreement was it would stay with you as long as you needed it.
So we
And
have
so
to
just sit
let
down and have a
go.
conversation with karma. Let it know that you don't need it anymore. Thank it for all its work. And look for what's next.
A new experience. Wow.
Yeah, and that means we don't have, the karma just helped us go into density and drag the time-space experience out. But as time-space is collapsing on itself, which is what's happening as things are speeding up, we don't need that to work on things for such a long time or to analyze things to great depth. You can just move through things really quickly and be done. And that's a really exciting option when you think about it.
Yeah. Wow. You made me, as you were talking, you made me think about something, and I don't know why this popped in my mind, but I guess I'm going to ask it, okay? Because I was thinking, what questions do most people ask when they come to see you? But it also was more than that. It was about, do people ask you where they came from, you know?
Oh, all the time.
Do they?
Yeah.
What, can you share with us a little bit about what maybe a collection of the answers might be?
Of where
like-
people came from? Oh, all kinds of things. A lot of times we go back to lifetimes in Lemuria and lifetimes in Atlantis, lifetimes in Egypt or Tibet, you know, a lot of the ancient places that we know of. And then people get real specific too. They ask a lot of times people ask that question in conjunction with another person in their life.
Oh.
And so usually when the records will do that, a lot of times people who have had past lifetimes together have a multiple past lives. Yeah. So they'll just give them 3 or 4, explaining, you know, their relationship, if they were related, if they got along, if they were on the same side. You know, like a lot of this has to do with war. A lot of people are on, you know, different sides of the war or things like that. And so, yeah, that's a very common question.
And how about like planets? Do they ask if I'm from,
Yeah.
you know, Arcturus? I don't know.
Yes,
very
all,
many
yes,
of the
all the time,
planets.
from Arcturus and the Pleiades, and what's the dragon planet?
I'm not sure, because you know that's something that I never have gotten into
Yeah.
much. But I know that
I've learned a lot.
lot of people, yeah, a lot of people that come into the shop and things, and there's a ton of information out there,
Yep.
like books and things on.
And sometimes people are from places that we don't have a name for, and that they'll give them bits and pieces about the experience, but they can't say the name. It's not a something that would have a word. It would be more of a sound. So that happens a lot. And people also, many of us have moved beyond the Earth for a lot of time. So it's not just one planet we're from, it's where we spent, you know, a long time.
A lot of our
You know, where we studied. A lot of people ask about, you know, where they have spent a long time, and it's where they studied to be who they are. You know, you studied someplace to be a feng shui master that wasn't probably on planet. I don't know, I don't
Or
think
in
we got
ancient
into that.
China or some place
Yeah.
where they did have feng shui.
But
masters.
even before ancient, but the level that you're working in feng shui is more than is expressed on the planet.
Well, and you had told me that it's more than I know. I mean, you know, like right now,
So,
being in
yeah.
the 3rd dimension and everything is much more limited as
Exactly.
far as even our, you know, what we can visualize, you
Yeah.
know, or whatever.
And that's the fun of being in the records and being able to actually talk about this. And the thing that's so interesting is we have all these conversations in the records that make perfect sense, that if we were to have the conversation outside of the records, we would be blown away. The amount of energy and the information that you're able to absorb while you're in the records is different than in a regular conversation. And a lot of times, like I said, I don't remember readings. 10 minutes after a reading, I forget most of it, which is really why I'm glad we tape the group readings and transcribe them, because it's really good stuff, but I don't remember it.
I remember after our session, and I think I even said to you that I felt like I was just vibrating, you know, at a real high,
And so I think
fast
that
level.
allows us to work with concepts on a different level.
Mhm.
And I think that the records say sometimes too that people are being, well, I guess I said earlier in the session, you're being adjusted on a vibrational level while you're having the conversation. So there's a lot of things that happen, I think, that expand our awareness.
Yeah. Yeah, expanding our awareness is a big part, I think, of, you know, when we talk about healing ourselves or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Becoming that whole person that we want to be is that awareness. And being aware.
Yeah. And once we see the how large we really are and who we really are, it's more difficult to operate under the illusion that we're operating under now, and our reality has to become a lot bigger.
Well, you know, I've gone to people and I've worked with people and I have friends that can actually see in other dimensions. You
Yes.
know, I'm not able to do that yet. I think I feel more like, you know, I have an expansive kind of feeling energy.
Yeah. And that's important too, that when I first started channeling, I really wanted to see things. And I don't close my eyes, or I don't, when I'm doing the records, my eyes are open, but I don't see something in front of me, but I can tell you exactly what it looks like, what it smells like, and what it tastes like. And so I think when you say you can feel other dimensions, I think that's more accurate than seeing them, or more, not more accurate, because it's not more. It's
everybody
as
does
valid.
it differently.
Yes, it's as valid as people who can see them, and that's my understanding. Is that's what's breaking down is the veils
veil.
between these different illusions. So it's going to become more common and easier, and for people like yourself that can see, that can feel other dimensions, just check in with it every once in a while and see if it changes for you and see if it becomes easier. And I suspect that it will, and I think that's happening for everyone.
Yeah. People come in and say their intuition is really advancing.
Yeah. And look at what will happen if a large portion of humanity moves into trusting their intuition more and is able to see more of these things, and we can all do this together.
Yeah.
What happens next? What will we do with all that?
Oh, I know. That is exciting. Well, speaking of that, what are you up to in the future? Like, you talked about a move, I know, and I don't want to see you move, you know?
Yeah, I'm moving to Banff in October, to the Banff area.
In October.
Yeah.
So remember that. Our viewers, we need to, you know, if it's something you want to do to access your Akashic records, we need to get a hold of Sean before she moves, before you leave.
I also do phone sessions.
Oh, that's right. So
and starting in June, I'm going to be doing group phone sessions. So if anyone doesn't live in the Missoula or Hamilton area, I'm going to be doing monthly teleconference sessions. The same thing, the records will be choosing a topic, and you can just call in for a number. I don't know how that will work yet. I've started that process, and I know I need to just get into connect with a company, and everybody will call into the same number. And I've participated in a couple phone conversations like that, where we can have 20 people on the phone.
wow. Doesn't everybody want to talk at the
Well,
same
it
time?
doesn't. That's what you would think. But look at what happens in a room. Everyone doesn't talk at once.
That's right.
Some people have questions at different times, and it really does work. And eventually I'll be moving into, what is it, when you can, video conferencing.
Video conferencing.
So this is something that, if you feel drawn to come before October, great. But if you don't, it's something that's very timely,
Yeah,
like we said earlier.
It'll be the time when it's meant to be the time, right?
Yeah.
But I know if you're like me, you hear about her, you hear about Sean, you don't want to miss out on it. Yeah, and it really is a special. I hope you feel good about what you do, because from the people that I've talked to that have had sessions with you, you really have sparked a wonderful light in their life.
Yeah, I love what I do, and that's why opening it up to group sessions is, well, the fun of group sessions is that, like we've talked about, the way you get information in the records is by asking questions. So when I get to have a group together, people ask questions that wouldn't occur to me. So I get all kinds of information that I wouldn't think to ask ordinarily. And so that's really fun in that sense too.
Yeah, I was thinking with your experience that you've experienced the different sessions and everything, just having all that information.
Well, and I don't have, I was thinking about that. I've been doing a lot of soul searching in the last couple days. I don't know if it's the equinox or being with the crystal or something, but I think about the mass amounts of information that I have with the personal readings and the group readings, and I don't have access to a lot of it consciously. Like I said, I forget it. But I just have this sense that it's about to all come together, and I'm going to have this understanding of how it all fits together. Because, like I said, I'm talking with all these people and I see this, their light come on. And that affects me too when I'm in the presence of someone who moves into their complete vibration. It's really, I don't know that I completely understand everything that I've gotten so far. It's happened so fast and it just keeps getting bigger, and the information is just amazing. And the other thing is, every time I do a personal reading with someone, every reading is different. The energy of every reading is different. What each person is meant to do is different. And so it's as if I'm getting this whole portrait painted of a different view of humanity than everyone else understands, including myself.
Well, yeah, and that's why I wanted to point out for sure what you had written in one of your group sessions is that it's so important to let go of all those beliefs that you're attached to.
Oh, yeah.
That, let go of the past beliefs that you're attached to, because one of the most important things is not being attached.
Yes, yes. That gets in the way.
Yeah.
Because if we're attached to seeing something a certain way, even if it changes, we won't notice that it changes. Yeah. And the records say that a lot, to just not attach to anything. And that doesn't mean don't have expectations and don't have goals,
Yeah.
but just be open to the fact. The other thing that they say, I don't know if it's in what I gave you or not, is that if something in your life changes and it appears that you're losing something or something is beginning to change,
Yeah,
it only means that it's getting better.
Yeah, that there's something better coming
Yeah,
out.
always, without fail. Even you may be able to come up with all these ways it could be worse, but actually it wouldn't happen unless it's getting better. That's the way things work.
Yeah.
And
Just like it says in here, if you've studied for 20 years for your life goal, of something you want to do, and then all of a sudden if the time is there and it's not happening, something else better is there waiting for you. So it's like, try not to be crushed by that.
And don't be limited by what you think is the best for you, because other aspects of yourself and however you look at who watches out for you, your guardian angels or God or whoever, they see the whole picture. And so if they're saying the thing you've wanted for 20 years and you have your heart set on that you think will make you so happy, we have something that will make you even happier. Trust them.
Yeah.
They've got your best interests in mind.
That's right. That's a
and let go.
big word right there, is to trust, because I've been doing a lot more of that, trusting and giving it up to God. And I'll tell you what, it's amazing what can happen when you do trust and give it up.
Easier said than done, though.
Yes, I know,
understand
because
that.
I had to go, my whole life to to do it.
I go back and forth myself.
We all move. I think we're all moving, like on a highway or a path to the same wholeness or oneness, our source, but at the same time we're all going in different speeds and different different paths.
Different ways of getting there.
Different ways of getting there. Yeah, I've always thought that's a good way of looking at it. Hey, I don't want to miss anything tonight about what you want to talk about.
Okay, I think
So-
we've done pretty well.
What about some of the, so we talked about the upcoming group readings and when they're going to be held and everything. Do you know some of the topics you can throw out for us that they've
that
said
are
coming up?
Yeah, the topic that's going to be in April is going to be moving into creation. And then they just said in a reading recently that they're going to talk about love in May.
Oh boy, I'll have to be
Yeah,
there.
and just to talk a little bit about what they've said in love in past group readings. And again, love, kind of like relationship, isn't the romantic love. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about love.
The unconditional big love, right?
Even bigger than
Bigger
that.
than
It's love is the energy of creation.
Oh.
If you think of it in
Yeah.
terms of that, it is an energy that moves into creation, which is exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
But an interesting thing the record said is somebody said something in relation to how much love we have being expressed on Earth. And they said on a scale from 1 to 100, we're at like a 3 or a 4.
Oh, compared to what this
Compared
huge
to
love
yeah,
is.
and not again, not qualifying or judging it, but in the sense of creativity and in the sense of love, and they kind of interchange it with light at times. The creative force, the divine energy of creation, that degree of love is only being expressed in a 3 or 4. But then they also said in the 5th dimension, it's only a 7 or an 8. So to think about love and the infinite amount of energy, so I'm very excited about that session.
Oh, that is. That's exciting.
Yeah. So that I know that's coming up. They only give me sessions pretty much a month ahead of time. And so, like I said, at Wild Ground, they're going to be talking about collective consciousness and individual reality. on March 30th, and then in Hamilton on April 18th, they're going to be talking about the human experience.
The human experience.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a question that I wanted to ask you about. When you say they, I know it's kind of like the keepers of the Akashic Records, or I wondered, are there keepers of the Akashic Records? Like, are there gatekeepers kind of or
Yes,
something?
there are keepers of the Akashic Records, and that's who I asked permission of to get into the records, but that's not who gives us the information.
Okay.
Once we get into the records, my understanding, well, let me back up a little. When I do a personal reading and I get into, say, your records, another version of yourself or your higher self, however you want to look at it, that's who takes the information from the records and gives it to me.
Oh.
So you ask questions, and it's basically a conversation with yourself. So think about it as if you ask a question, and another version of you goes into the Akashic Record, says, "Oh, this is the best answer for that question," and gives it to me, and then I give it to you. That's how it works.
Well, and I like that because then you're in touch. It's a very what was I going to say? Kind of integrity thing.
Yes,
it feels
yes.
like.
It's very direct, and and that actually, I've done channeling before I began to read the Akashic Records, and I was never willing to do it for anyone else other than myself because there's so much bias. Everything that I got had to run through my own belief systems and my own perception of the world and reality, and the records have this inherent gatekeeping mechanism, whereas another thing that you need to know is that when I open your records, I don't know everything about you. It's as if I'm in this bank vault with all these drawers of information. And then when you ask a question, like I said, a part of you goes to the drawer and pulls it out and says, "Here you go, here's the answer to that question." And so I don't have to, I don't have to create a safe space or anything because there's no danger there. It's not, other energy can't come in. It's very direct. And so the way that works in a group session, and I meant to talk about this before when I finally understood what group sessions are. So we ask the gatekeepers to get into the records, and then say we're in the records of relationship. All the beings who are in the room, well, no, because we don't have their records open.
Are they helping to open those drawers? Or?
They're not, because we don't have their records open. I'm still trying to understand how the group, but it's
in a sense, though, maybe being part of that group has given you the okay to get the group records.
No, because I wondered about that too. Yeah, I'm still trying to sort that out. And I did get the answer to this, which made perfect sense, and I can't remember what it is now. But it's not the individual people because I don't have their records open, and it's not the gatekeepers because they're just let beings in and out of the records. So I think maybe a good way to answer that would be that there is just certain beings in charge of that particular part of the records to explain it. I'm not sure. I'll have to get more information on that.
Well, we're definitely going to have you back again so we can follow up on that one too, because I'd be interested in that. And then I saw something here that I know would be an interest to our viewing audience and stuff, that where can you go to get a complete explanation or more explanation about the Akashic Records? Like, are there books out there?
There's not a lot of books out there. There is a guy by the name of Gary Bunnell who has a website, and he has a lot of information on his website that's useful, and he's written a couple books. One is called, I think it's, I forget, it's Akashic Records something, and then there's a subtitle, I don't remember what it is, and then the other is called The 12 Days of Light, which is information he got about the upcoming times through the Akashic Records, which I've had, and I haven't had time to read because I'm in grad school, but I'm going to read them this summer.
So all of this and grad school.
Yes. But grad school will be done, and then I'm going to move fully into the records. But you can go to my website and get an explanation of the records, like I said earlier. And other than that, I've gone online and done searches for Akashic Records, and I pull up explanations of it, but like you said before, it's usually just references to information stored in the Akashic Records. So I haven't had a lot of luck finding more information.
But you know, the explanation you gave us earlier really seems that's it. I mean, what more do you need?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like it is the recorded information of everything that's ever been thought, created, you know.
Everything is there.
Everything, and what will be also.
But
all right.
Okay.
Well, we've been given the signal that we've got it. It's time to kind of close the show.
All right. I'd like to just throw one last thing in
Time
there.
goes by so fast with you. I have to tell you that. I just can't even believe we've been here that long, but we have.
The time does go quick.
Yeah. Tell us whatever you want to tell.
That New Earth magazine.
Uh-huh.
I have an article in the New Earth magazine that they just emailed me. I guess it came out this week, so you
Oh.
can pick that up, I'm sure,
At the
around
Feng Shui
town.
Center,
At Feng Shui Center,
many
Wild
different places
Ground.
around town, yeah.
And there's an article in there that's an excerpt from my September 11th reading. And then they've actually asked me to be a regular contributor, so you can look for ongoing Akashic Record excerpts in the New Earth magazine as they come out periodically.
Wow, you know,
So
that's definitely a thing that everybody should get a hold of, because I read that article. That was good.
Yeah,
that you wrote. I
was-
always read the New Earth magazine, and that was a great.
They have good
great
information in
article.
there.
And it was all about the significance of the September 11th, which none of us will ever forget that day, and what it had to do with all of us in the Akashic Records. Can you think of anything else that we didn't share tonight?
I don't think so.
Well, I hope everybody gets a chance to call her with questions, or to call and set up a session. And before we leave tonight, I want to make sure I thank everybody that makes this show happen. MCAT, it gives us the use of the studio here, and Frank Amos, he is a palm reader, and he often does palm readings at the Feng Shui Center, and you can always call Frank and set up an appointment to get your palm read. And he's the producer here, so he does a lot of work behind the scenes that, I mean, Frank's here day and night, you know, working and editing and things. There's beautiful backdrops that we always have different ones here. The Rainbow's End, right next to the Feng Shui Center, lets me bring in those, and we really thank them for letting us do that. Can you think of anything else, Frank? About
Give the crystal skull again, and I'll insert that for this weekend. And you give your thing for this weekend on the 30th. Now, that's coming up next.
It's next Friday. It's a week from today.
A week
Yeah.
from today.
Give that, and I'll insert it for this week, and I'll pull my tape and insert those.
Oh, okay.
So
For the
you
tape
go
that
ahead
is
and
gonna
do
be
yours,
shown?
And then I'll jump to you
Okay.
and give those that are on the end of the tape, and I'll insert them before this weekend.
Great.
Well,
Give another one.
on the crystal skull, Frank, I was going to let you know that that's already going to happen Friday and Saturday, so we won't
It's
really.
happening tomorrow.
Yeah, we won't really have a show that we can tell about that. But Sean
Okay.
can tell about her up and coming event that's going to happen March 30th.
Okay,
right?
and I'll probably talk about Hamilton
That's
too.
not this Saturday, but next Saturday. Yeah.
Right.
March 30th.
March 30th, yeah. There's going to be a group reading with the Akashic Records March 30th, about a week from today, and it's going to be at 4 o'clock at Wild Ground, and the topic they're going to talk about is collective consciousness and individual reality. And then after that, I'm going to be doing a group reading at Wild Ground the first Saturday of every month at 4 p.m. And then also in Hamilton on April 18th at 7 p.m., that's a Thursday, I'm going to be doing a group Akashic Record reading, and the topic for that one will be the human consciousness. And then if there's interest in Hamilton as well, I'll do them on a monthly basis out there. And just to let you know, I don't choose the topics, the records just let me know what topic we're going to talk about. And so if any of them sound interesting to you, just put some questions together and come to one. You can always go to my website, and I believe that Frank will put up the website some point during this program, and you can find out any upcoming events at my website there, and you can also read excerpts from past group Akashic Record readings.
You know, Sean, I think that what you're doing now has come around at this time because this is a very special thing that needs to be done right now, and you've been chosen to do it, and I think your work is really good. I'd like to thank you for being there, and you just make it a better world when you do things like this.
Well, thanks for bringing me on the program and letting people hear about the records.
Yeah.
It's a very special thing.
Yeah, it is. And thank you for being here. Good night, everybody. See you again next week. All right. Bye-bye.